Final score from the Global Energy Stadium: Celtic 4, Ross County 1, and Celtic go an incredible 18 points clear at the top of the league. This is Tino with the Final Whistle Show, joined here by Paddy. Paddy, your thoughts on your day in the Highlands?
Oh, brilliant day, brilliant day. I think I've just about thawed out, mind you. A very cold day in the stadium. I think at one point I checked my phone, it was like -5 around kick-off time. It was crazy weather, but the boys soon get me warmed up with the performance yesterday. Thought a very good first half. We were very patient in our play, and just then, gave ourselves a bit of work to do with the equaliser in the second half. But I was still pretty confident that we would come out on top. And a very tricky place to go to, Dingwall, and I think we handled it very well on what was very tough conditions yesterday.
Just on that, Paddy, plenty to cover throughout the game itself, but tough conditions. We were up there fairly early, and I thought at one point it would have been in jeopardy. I thought the park looked a bit sketchy, but fair play to whoever's up there, doing the work to get the game on. But it was difficult conditions. Weather-wise, there's no wind, which is a huge plus, because wind can really be a killer. But it was certainly cold enough, and the surface was kind of bobbly and rutted. And credit to the players for throughout the whole game actually trying to play ball. Celtic could easily went, this isn't the place for us. Let's go more direct. Let's go long up to Ida or whatever. They tried to play throughout the game, and I think real credit for that.
I definitely agree. I don't think there was maybe only a few areas I thought it was bobbling up, more so in the box, around the goal mouths. But actually in the middle of the park, it suited Celtic a little bit because the balls were getting past with real zip behind them. And, it was a question of how's your touch yesterday. I think I said that a few times at the game, but it was, with the surface being as hard as it was, it showed the technical ability of both sides. I thought Ross County had some great, decent spells as well with their passing. And it was still a decent game of football to watch in what was a solid part. But as the game went on, it started to cut up a bit more. It slowed the play down a little bit, but I thought there was a real tempo in the first half.
Yeah, I thought there was great passage of play. We'll get to the goals in due course, but Celtic's first goal, it's a really good move. It's the ball fizzed into your striker who links up with the midfield, gets it wide and all that stuff. And it wasn't the first time Celtic, put together a passage of play like that across the first half. There was a couple of frustrations at times, but I think the players showed their patience. But, we've kind of laughed now about the need sometimes to go back. If you go forward and it's not working and you find yourself down a cul-de-sac, you need to turn out and start again. And I think Celtic managed that pretty well. And about Ross County, I agree. I think they tried to play ball. They weren't particularly industrial, to use that football term. We noted the fellas at Chilvers up top, Noah Chilvers, number 10, I think he was in the day. I thought he's a really decent footballer. We were kind of fairly close to, yeah. And I thought guys like him and various others tried their bit. They tried to play ball, and obviously at that point, if you're going toe-to-toe with Celtic, more often than not, Celtic's quality, could and should come through, but that's not always how football works. And as I say, real credit to Celtic for digging deep. As I mentioned, Paddy, excuse me, and as folks know, we were up there in the Highlands yesterday, and a massive thanks to Lewis McLean from McLean's Highland Bakery. He had us and a few other folks up in the hospitality. A brilliant day. Great guys, really well looked after. Kev, Mick, Donny, Neil, Benny, loads of guys, great guys up there. They're all actually from Forest. I think originally the Forest Shamrock is their background. So big shout out to the lads who were great company on the day and really looked after us. Paddy, the big other big surprise as such, we knew kind of early bells that we were going to have issues in the wide areas. You've got Nicholas Kuhn missing, Dies Maida, your two main starters in those positions. We know Jamesy Forrest is out for a bit longer. And Louis Palma, I believe it was a bereavement in the family for Louis Palma. So there's 4 wingers out your starting lineup, and Celtic had to shuffle the pack. What do you think of what the manager went with there?
I think it was a case of, just looking at who could come into these positions and who he thought he could get the most out of. We kind of spoke about the times that we've seen Kyogo play out in the wings. It's normally been from the left side, and there was a few suggestions on Twitter before the game that they maybe switch him and Yang, with Yang playing out in the left and Kyogo out in the right. And actually, I think that's obviously what he went with yesterday, and it worked very well. I spoke not too long ago, I actually think it was the pre-match, and I spoke about, a lot of people saying Ida and Kyogo are just, they're not involved as much, and actually putting a lot of the blame onto our two strikers. I think yesterday just shows you how important our wingers are, and you had mentioned it, Tino, it's almost like we play with inside forwards, as Brendan Brendan Rodgers has alluded to, it is no surprise to me that Kyogo goes and scores 2 goals yesterday. It really isn't, in terms of where he was playing. He was so much more involved in the play. He was on the ball more than we've seen in a long time, when you think about it. And he just looked as if he loved it yesterday. He loved every bit about the game. I thought he was relentless. A couple of good chances. I think, again, going with how bobbly it was in the goal mouth, I thought there was a couple of chances that he could have taken in the first half. But I love how in his post-match conference, that's basically exactly what he's come out and said. Like, oh, I need to work better a bit on these things. But 2 great goals from him. Just an incredible striker. And I'd love to. We need to try and keep a hold of him. We can't let him go yet.
Absolutely, and I think if ever he needed to reinforce his importance and credentials in terms of what he does for this Celtic side, he absolutely done that and showed his importance again yesterday. And I think, I don't know, people have got short memories. We discussed, I think, in the pre-match show, the possibility that Kyogo could move on. It is possible, but none of us want it, and that's exactly where we find ourselves. Shout out to various guys that continue to join us in the live. Great to see everyone here. Good to see Sean, Eugene, Gypsy King and others here this morning. Eugene says, -18 late afternoon in Dingwall. Brendan Rodgers got it spot on with utilising Kyogo without a right wing. And on that, Paddy, we spoke pre-match about the false 9, inverted commas, that you sometimes see in football. Kyogo was like a false winger, wasn't he? It was like he was kind of up there on the right-hand side when required, and he found himself out there at different times. But also he was drifting in and forming that kind of, two-pronged attack between him and Adam Ida. And it was really interesting. And again, it just shows the intelligence of the manager. It'd be easy just to kind of fudge it and say, right, Kyogo, just go and play right wing and stay out there and don't budge. And we'll put Yang in the left and we'll just go as is. I thought it was good adaptability by the manager and the player.
Yeah, I thought so too. And I think it really gave Ross County more problems than they maybe expected in that area of the park. I think they thought that was more going to be the channel that Ida would operate on, and you just seen how much Kyogo was dropping into that position and making sure that he was ready to take the ball. Interestingly enough, I thought this was really good. I thought Austin Trusty had a very strong performance yesterday, and as we were trying to bring the ball out from the back, Kyogo was making the run towards the halfway line to receive the ball, but I actually clocked a certain bit of play where Trusty had played the ball and he starts screaming at Adam Ida afterwards to basically say, get into position quicker, because the ball shouldn't always be going to Kyogo. Kyogo should be that little bit further out. But what Kyogo was clever at yesterday was bringing both their left winger and their left back in and actually creating a lot of space for Alistair Johnson down the right. What I do like to see, though, is the accountability that Trusty's putting on to Ida and basically saying you need to get involved more. I thought he was on his heels yesterday a bit, Ida, in terms of coming in and trying to bring the play forward. So it's good that they're holding each other accountable for those moments.
I think so. And so I was obviously with you at the very moment where Trusty is. He's balling at Adam Ida. He was really quite forceful with it. But Ida also, as a good teammate and a good pro, took it in the right manner. Some players will take off at that and throw the arms up. He took the message on board and started getting into that pocket. And actually, that is a perfect example of what became the first goal. It is Ida that drops into that space. Coming deep as a number 9. He's done the wee kind of back heel flick back to McGregor, who puts out wide to Johnson. And we know Johnson is capable of this ball. We talk about the corridor of uncertainty. That's the term, isn't it? But he whips into a brilliant area. And you just know that that's the dream for a guy like Kyogo. And it's a real tidy finish. It's a great goal.
Excellent finish. Excellent goal.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying on
that. You don't need to elaborate. But again, people talk about, Celtic. Brendan Rodgers has only got a plan A. He only knows one way to play football. And I countered that. I was chatting, again in the pre-match with yourself the other day and talking about the fact that, yes, he's got a set system as such, but there's lots of flexibility and fluidity within that system. He can make wee tweaks and ask guys to play higher up in different areas. And as I'm saying, on paper, as per the lineup, Kyogo was the right winger yesterday. So what's the right winger doing getting on the end of a right wing cross? And that tells you there's lots of possibilities within the Rodgers system.
It does, but it shows you it must be something they work on, because, as I say, you've got Ida dropping back a little bit and creating that space for Kyogo. And I think that that's no coincidence that Kyogo was popping up in those positions yesterday. I do think it's manufactured, and it also just backs up the fact that our wingers are instructed to get in the box. If you know that the fullback's going to get up there and probably, or maybe the right-hand side of the midfield is going to get up there, the likelihood is they're putting the ball into the box. You better be there as well. And you've seen it so many times, Tino. A bit different this time with Kyogo being the first man. But 9 times out of 10, look at the goals scored from our wingers coming in at the back. I think Abada was very good at it under Ange, but you look at Maeda's goals, it's always made its way through to Maeda, and sometimes the same with Nicholas Kuhn as well. So it's definitely part of the system, but with an intelligent player like Kyogo, I just think he thrived playing out in the right yesterday, and it's a really, really good option to have, in my opinion.
Yeah, do you know, I think it looked like he really enjoyed himself in the day, and speaking to someone else last night who was saying that in their group chat during the game, the body language experts were out in the first half. Kyogo's not into it, the wee man doesn't fancy it, he's off, all these things, and I just kind of yeah, he may well move on, but I don't think you can ever doubt Kyogo's commitment, you know, when he pulls on a green and white shirt, and I thought that was there to see yesterday. You talk about the importance of wingers coming in at the back. Actually, people will be getting bored of this. If Kyogo doesn't finish it, my man Yang was there to tap it in, Paddy. He done what all wide men do, and he came in at the back post. Kyogo basically took it off Yang's toe, which is pretty out of order.
It's shocking. Kyogo out.
We'll get to the Yang man in just a bit. There's plenty to talk about there. But Paddy, that takes us 1-0 at half time, and the manager spoke post match saying that you know, obviously very pleased with the resilience and the character that the boys showed and the commitment. But they did feel that it could have been more, you know, at half time. The goalie, and we'll talk about the goalie and some of the post-match stuff with him after. Let me see, Jordan Amisa. He had a brilliant game for Ross County. He pulled off some massive saves. And I think at 1-0, so the goal's in the 40th minute. And then not long after that, Kyogo's had another chance. It's kind of a wee bit messy in the box, but he's pulled off, I think, a double save at one point. And he played a big part in keeping County in the game. But at that point, Celtic were pressing. And it wouldn't have been untoward to go in maybe a couple of goals to the good, at least at half time.
Yeah, I think we would have deserved that. And I think, you know, that everyone was pretty happy with the first half performance. And as we've spoke about the conditions, fine. We get the ball down and played football yesterday, and we looked very comfortable. I thought Callum McGregor was back to a bit of normality yesterday. I thought he bossed the midfield at points, but I think the big thing for me was the energy from that midfield three. Few people obviously saying Hatate still looked a little bit off the ball, but actually, sorry, on the ball yesterday, but off the ball, his tracking back and actually breaking up any kind of play from Ross County was pretty strong yesterday, I thought. I don't know what's going on just now. We spoke yesterday about he's the kind of player that loves to take the ball in the half turn and make things happen. He's always looking for the killer pass. And I think maybe he's trying a little bit too hard just now, Tino. But for me, off the ball, I thought he was right in their faces. He got in about it. He threw his body into where he needed to be and done really well. But the one driving force in the midfield just now, and I'm sure we'll come on to him, is Arne Engels. I just thought yesterday he just looked in real control of his position, real control of possession of the ball, and make Celtic tick yesterday along with McGregor.
Yeah, you were chatting after the game, and you're speaking about what you like about Engels is it looks like it's his midfield now. He's kind of playing with a confidence there. And again, I was watching some of the manager's comments post-match, and he said that, quote unquote, Arne Engels is now playing with an authority. You know, just you know, kind of echoing exactly what your own sentiments are there. And he just looks now that he's confident and knows that he firmly belongs in this midfield. Again, there's no surprise that a young man, 20 years age at the time, making a big move into Scotland and all that stuff, probably raised a few eyebrows back home that he was making such a move. It takes time. You know, some guys hit the ground running, which is brilliant. Some guys need a wee bit of time. Arne Engels needed a wee bit of time, but I don't think at any point you doubted that he was a talented footballer. But now he's got the talented side, which has always been there, and he's added the confidence and authority that you need to be a Celtic player. And I think he's now starting to boss midfields. And I think let's just jump to his penalty, because it takes a lot of character to miss it and then say, just give me it and I'll do it again. It's a great save by the goalie, but he's clearly off his line, so it's right to be a retake. And Engels has got the confidence. And actually, that few moments, penalty then retake, kind of sums up where you're at with Arne Engels. Tucked it away at that point, 3-1, and it's job done. And it kind of summed up where he's at in his Celtic career at this moment in time.
Absolutely, Tino. And I think, we're looking at the performances where we thought he wasn't just up to speed yet. And people are calling out the 11 million transfer fee, when actually you look at the goals and assists that he still contributed to the team in that time, in that so-called bad spell. Now you're actually just seeing how important it was just for him to have a look at the bigger picture and look at what his role would be in that midfield. And I think now he's come back into it, he's just feeling the confidence. I think a really, really good link up at points with Alistair Johnson yesterday, who I thought was a bit back to normal as well. I thought he was a bit better than what we've seen from him lately. But he was just very, very comfortable on the turn, very comfortable on the ball, a lot stronger looking as well. I think a couple of times he was just reading when the challenge was going to come in, and just people were bouncing off him at points. So very strong performance from him, and I just think he's starting to really, really enjoy what he's doing. I think there's a bit more freedom to his role now as well, and you're really starting to see why he costs 11 million.
Yeah, it's great to see. I'm really excited to see what he brings in the young boys game. I think this is the environment that he was brought in for. You know, you've got to do your bread and butter at Celtic. You've got to go to Ross County. You've got to go to some difficult places. But the European stage is big for Arne Engels, and I'm excited to see what he brings later this month. But in terms of the second half, Ross County make a couple of changes at half time, and they've had a bit of luck at that. They bring on Phillips and they bring on Jordan White, and it's Phillips who wins the penalty, and I think it is a penalty. I don't think there's any debate. I think Neil McCann is still screaming for Alistair Johnson to be sent off by all accounts. There's not a great deal to it. You know, I think between him and Chris Boyd, they're demanding a red, and he was clearly preventing a goal-scoring opportunity. It's not a red card, but it is a penalty, so I don't think there's any debate on that. There was obviously a VAR delay. You know, was it a penalty first, and we got that cleared up. But hold on a minute, it might have been offside. But eventually, the penalty's given, and no arguments there. And Jordan White's an experienced, you know, Scottish Premiership player, and he tucks it away well. And at that point, you know, that's on the hour mark. It leaves Celtic with a challenge. You know, it lifts the home crowd. But I think they responded really well to the challenge. It's easy to kind of chips her down and it's a tough day here and it might not pan out. That's not a thing for this Celtic side. There's a real resilience about this Celtic side. You'll have heard Alistair Johnson speaking post-match just about the targets and standards they set for themselves. And there was no way Celtic would settle, and they responded in a good manner, didn't they?
They did actually think from kick-off, we had a good chance to get in behind, and we were unlucky. Thought the changes came a little bit later than what we're normally used to seeing as well. I think normally we get those three changes roughly around the hour mark. That's when they scored, and I think Rodgers was clever in the sense of, right, let me see how you react to this as an 11 that are on just now. I thought it was probably a good learning moment for some of the players. I include the likes of Alex Baye and I include Alistair Johnson in terms of maybe having to wake up a little bit. Even though I did say I think he had a better game than what I've seen from him lately. There's a couple of times that's maybe just a little weakness in Alistair Johnson, is that back post run for him. Don't think it's too often that it happens, but I think it kind of woke us up a little bit. We were very quick to get settled again after it and started to try and play some better football. It became a little bit scrappy. I think a few of the boys were getting a little bit tired, but we made the changes for me at the right time in the 75th minute. You know, I think 15 minutes, you've given all you can get. You've got a tough game coming up against Dundee, where you're probably going to hope for a little bit of rotation, and you're also bringing players onto the park, the likes of Johnny Kenny, that aren't used to the system yet. They aren't used to the setup, so it's trying not to put too much pressure on those guys as well. So I thought it was managed well in terms of what we were trying to do in the final 30 minutes of the game.
Yeah, and it's interesting, as you say, almost always Rodgers makes his change on 60, 61, 62, usually 2, if not 3 changes at that time. But he sat tight, and as you say, it's maybe just a challenge to his players to say, okay, you've been pegged back here, how are you going to react to that? And I thought, as you say, they reacted well. And then, about 75 minutes, he makes a double substitution. So it's Johnny Kenny coming in for Adam Ida, and at the same time, McCowan comes in for Hatate. And when you see in the lineup, obviously I've mentioned at the top of the piece here, there was four wingers missing for Celtic. You're going to see some changes in terms of the squad. We know Stephen Welsh is out at the moment to Mechelen in Belgium, and good luck to Stephen Welsh out there. But you've got Johnny Kenny, Daniel Cummins, who a lot of folk have been asking for, and Adam Montgomery on the bench. Adam Montgomery's not been around for a long time. I think he suffered a tough injury out on loan at Motherwell. So, these young guys, get the opportunity at least to be around the first team. And in Johnny Kenny's case, he gets a chance to come and impact the game. he did impact the game, Paddy. Young guy. He's been set a challenge by Celtic, and he's moved back to Ireland for a time and had his spell at Shamrock Rovers and done particularly well. And I know that the level there is lower, and the Europa Conference League, which he's playing in for the Rovers, and they've qualified for the next stages, it's a lower level. But all he can do as a player is go out and do his thing, play his part, and score goals as a striker. I think he's got something like 24 goals. I'll need to check, but he's gone there and done his job, which is all you can ask. And at that point, Celtic made the move and decided to bring him back into training in January. He's been training over the last week or so with the first team. And I talk a lot about the sliding doors moments in football. You sometimes need a guy to get injured. You need a player to move on who plays in your position. You need a whole lot of things to happen. You can be talented, you can have the right attitude, but you need a huge slice of luck as well. But Johnny Kenny gets the opportunity, as I say, Paddy. What do you think of the impact he had in the game?
I do. I thought he gave Ross County some more to think about. He pinned them back where I think they managed to bring the game into the middle of the park a little bit. Kenny pulled them back into their half a lot more. The guy will be kicking himself with the chance he had. And I think, again, I've given it the state of the goalmouths. It's maybe just bounced up differently than how he thought it was going to. So it was quite a difficult one for him. But obviously, all of us hoping he goes and scores on his debut, and the confidence that would have given him would have been massive. But I think I've seen some pictures after the game. One of the guys that was straight to him was Rodgers, and I think he would have been happy with his overall performance coming on yesterday, and exciting for him. He didn't look out of place. He looked very. I think I agree with Gaza West. He looked sharp and quick. I think that's what you want to see from your strikers. You want to see them bust a gut and run down every single ball. Make sure that they're putting every defender, every goalkeeper under pressure. There's one striker that does that at Celtic, and it's Kyogo. So you need to watch what he's doing and try and replicate that, or if not, try and be better. That's the goal.
That's a challenge, and I think apart from anything else, the fact that Johnny Kenny's now training alongside a Kyogo, you've got to learn and pick up things from such a talented guy. And I think when he came in, as I say, he's only got a relatively short time in the park. 20 minutes give or take. Well, a wee bit more with injury time, and the fact that he has an impact. As I say, some guys can come in, big opportunity and maybe think, right, first and foremost, don't make a mistake. I don't think guys like Johnny Kenny and Yang and others that are getting some opportunities at Celtic, you can't afford to come in and play safe. You need to come in and have an impact and show that he maybe should be this third choice striker that Brendan Rodgers is talking about. I mean, he fits the mould, Paddy. Young, exciting striker. The manager talked about Rocco Vata potentially being that guy, and what a goal he scored in the FA Cup, by the way. But by the by, Rocco Vata's not around, but Johnny Kenny is. Daniel Cummins, to an extent, is as well. And it's up to them to lay down the marker and say, I can be that guy for you. And I think Johnny Kenny showed that on a difficult surface as well, he could come in and just ruffle feathers a wee bit. He all of a sudden he caused problems that weren't happening for Ross County at the back. And he's winning corners, he's getting strikes on goal, and he plays a part in the final goal as well, which we'll try and get to. Obviously, we're all over the place with our order, but that's fine, Paddy. That's the way it goes sometimes. Let's stay on the second goal. So again, it's Engels who's heavily involved. He finds himself on the turn on the edge of the area. I don't know if it's kind of cross-come shot. It's kind of hard to kind of work out, but he gets the ball into the mixer and Kyogo flashes a header. I thought it was a brilliant header, and he doesn't get the credit he deserves for his, I was going to say his aerial presence. That's not the right term, but he is good with his head. Some folks thought the goalie could have done better. I just thought it was flashed by him so quickly that he didn't have much of an opportunity. But what's your take on that goal?
Yeah, I don't think the keeper can do much more. I think it's too close. It's a bullet to a header. Enough power on it, enough height on it as well. It's right under the crossbar. I just think it's too close for the reaction. He's unlucky. But Kyogo he's very, very strong with his head, and I think that he's such a clever player. I do think it is a shot from Engels. I think he's tried to bend it far corner. But Kyogo's just done, no, I'm having that. And it's a well taken goal. I'm sorry, Arne, I'm taking this one. No, it's a great finish, and I think again, just the space that Engels created himself for the shot, and we've seen it against the United through the week, and then obviously yesterday. He really is trying to get into those positions to have those shots. I think he's been told, we want to see a bit more of that from you, and he's trying to score every game, Engels. cutting a frustrated figure at points, but he's brushing himself down and getting on with it. So it's exciting.
Yeah, I'm going to need to dig out the stats over the last few games, but he's had several shots on goal each game. He's clearly been instructed to, and he's confident with both feet as well, Paddy. He's keen to get shots away, and that's what leads to the second goal, and it's great. Initiative by Kyogo to flash the header, and it's a really good goal. And again, the body language. Oh, Kyogo didn't look enjoyed that one and all that stuff. As long as he's playing in a Celtic shirt, I think he's enjoying himself. And what will be in terms of any moves at some point. 2-1 at that point, Paddy. Fairly late in the game, and you're thinking, okay, maybe that'll be the case. But there's plenty of action actually beyond that. Let's get to the penalty and let's get to Yang for a moment. So Yang finds himself in a good position. Obviously, all of us, but particularly me, are really keen that he tucks it away. I think he is bundled over. I've not actually seen many of the replays, but at the time you're screaming for a penalty, and after much delaying, too much delaying. I don't understand what can take so much time about it, but eventually the ref awards a penalty. And we've touched on Engels, we'll maybe revisit it in a second. But from Yang's point of view, so obviously now is a section of the show we'll do Yang for 5 minutes because we need to fit him in somewhere. But he is a guy that's been talked about. It's not just me. He's the centre of much debate in the Celtic world just now. I showed you my phone at one point after the game. Lots of people message me during the game, what about your guy Yang? He's struggling. And then other guys going, brilliant game by Yang today, probably his best in a Celtic shirt. And that's these aren't my opinions, these are folks messaging me. So there's all sides of the coin. I did see a tweet last night which I thought was fairly accurate, and it was a guy who said, just quite simply, I think on Tuesday, if Yang plays, it'll be his 50th appearance in a Celtic shirt. Not always starting, of course, but 50 appearances. And he says he still can't work out if he's a player or not. And I can completely understand where that fella's coming from, because we do see some great stuff by Yang. I think we can all agree that there is some really exciting things from him and some not so good stuff. And sometimes he's playing with a confidence and a flair, and sometimes not so much. But what do you think of his contribution at Dingwall?
I thought he looked the most comfortable I've seen him in a Celtic jersey yesterday, playing out in the left. I don't think he suited to the right. I actually thought he looked as if he enjoyed the challenge of coming in, cutting in from the left wing and actually opening up the space for Baye to come in the overlap. I thought that was very evident, and he looked comfortable linking up with Alex Baye yesterday. Is it a case, I think, again, what Gazette West is saying here, I've just maybe trying that a little bit too hard, maybe just being a wee bit more composed. But he's got such a point to prove, and I think that he must know, like you've just mentioned, that coming up in 50 appearances, he must know that it's time's limited, and what impact is he having. So maybe the manager's realised, hey, I might try you out in the left more, give that a go and see how you go with that. But I do see a player there. I just still don't know if it's at this level.
And that's all absolutely fair. I do see a player as well, but he needs to kick on. I like, for the most part, what I've seen so far, but he now needs to take it to the next level. We talked about Arne Engels finding his feet and then stepping up. Yang is now getting minutes, getting game time. He needs to step up as well. I'm just going to give you some stats. You might have seen it last night on Twitter. CP Hamill on Twitter. I think he writes for The Athletic. These are stats. These are not my opinion, so just take them as they are. So Yang v Ross County, 9 duels won, 6 on the ground, 3 in the air, 6 touches in the opponent's box, 3 chances created, and that's an important part. 2 shots, 2 tackles, 2 fouls won, 2 dribbles, 1 shot on target, 1 penalty won, and 0 times dispossessed. And then his final comment is that this is Yang's best Celtic performance to date. There are signs there, Paddy, that he's finding his feet. Now, as I say, some guys hit the ground running, some guys take longer. Yang has been in the building since last summer, so he's a year and a half or so into his Celtic career. Yeah. And he's not had much by way of injury, that I can gather. He's just found himself in and out. He was finding his feet at one point last season, and he got that sending off against Hearts, which everyone agrees is a ridiculous sending off. But it disrupted his flow at the time, and he's had to wait patiently, because I think, as much as I do like him, I think there's better players ahead of him right now. So all he can do is wait till that opportunity comes, and it's here now. Yesterday, 4 missing wingers, and that is the challenge, Paddy. He needs to just step up at this moment in time, because you don't get too many opportunities in a Celtic shirt. We speak about Ryan Christie. It wasn't happening. It wasn't happening. It wasn't happening. Then it did happen. And my hope is that that's where it ends up for someone like Yang. But it's the clock is ticking, no doubt.
Yeah, the clock is ticking. It's who does he come in for? He's had his opportunity yesterday with the two wingers, not making the game that are undoubtedly our number one players in those positions. But I still think he'll take a lot from his performance yesterday, and I do think that he did seem, for me, a lot more comfortable out on that left-hand side. He was looking a bit stronger yesterday, I felt, at points as well. Someone's... Eugene's mentioning it. He's quite courageous on the ball, and I think he is. I think he throws himself into tackles. I think he throws himself into positions where players don't tend to really dip their toe into. I think Yang does want to get in about it all, and I think you can tell yesterday the state of his jersey at the end of the game. He threw himself about the park a bit. I think he's enjoying it. I think he is taking the opportunity, but I think just calm it down a little bit and just let your football do the talking, and don't over try. I think that's the difficult bit for him, because he will feel this pressure. But I think the technical side is there. It's just the end product that we're still waiting on from Yang, and hopefully that composure settles in a little bit for him. Hopefully he takes a lot from yesterday's performance and we start to see more of a finished article.
Yeah, I think he needs a goal or a couple of assists just to properly unlock him and let him relax and do his thing. There is such a thing as trying too hard in football. We've all seen it. And the harder you try, sometimes the worse you get. I think Yang should just calm down and do his thing. And part of that is he'll be well coached. He'll be getting good advice from the manager and the coaches as to how best to approach that. So let's see. He is looking strong physically. I don't know if it's January, Paddy. Maybe been hitting the gym. New year, new me, says Yang.
New year, new me,
smashing it, bro.
Yang season.
Up at any time fitness at all hours. So he's clearly, working hard. He's a real hard worker for the team. Into the 95th minute and beyond, let's get to the fourth goal. It's Yang that wins the ball back in Celtic's half, breaks forward, plays into McCowan, I think, and blah, blah, blah. And whatever else happens, it leads to the goal. It's all a wee bit, fast and loose at that point. Johnny Kenny shows a great bit of energy getting across the box. And I think eventually it's Kenny who nudges it on to Luke McCowan. It's a busy goalmouth at that moment in time, but McCowan's got the composure just to get out his feet and put it in the corner with his left foot. Talked about Kyogo in terms of body language and how he responds to goals. There is no doubt that Luke McCowan is a guy who loves scoring for Celtic, and he enjoyed the moment, didn't he?
He did, and I think a nice little warmer for the fans standing in that yesterday to go and get the two quick-fire goals at the end of the game, send everyone down the road with a smile on their face. And, I thought the crowd yesterday was excellent up at Dingwall, considering how freezing it was. But we've seen a boy floating about with his top off at one point at the end of the game. Fair play to him. Absolutely loving just now on Twitter. I don't know if you've seen the boys that are putting pictures of themselves up, but they're using an app to make themselves look obese, basically. And there's pictures of them standing at the side of the motorway. They're obviously the snow behind them. They've got their tricolours and they're like, next stop Dingwall. And that lot are lumping on them and giving them dogs abuse, like just stating the size of them, basically. But you can clearly see that they're all photoshopped. So actually, I seen one of the boys. I think the boy behind all of this. I seen him yesterday, and I'm just like, "Oh, you've lost a bit of weight, mate." He's looking a bit normal, but worth having a look on Twitter if you find that. I'll send it over to you. But it's everyone was in a good mood yesterday. Everyone's buoyant at the moment, and even I loved at the end just the cheek of the fans behind the goals, or the Green Brigade of the boys starting the Martin Engels song again. Just a little jibe at the manager once more. But I think we speak about the height and the furore that was caused by what Rodgers said last week in terms of the support for the players and singing about Kieran Tierney. You look at his press conference yesterday and he's drawn a line under it. We're just talking about the commitment of each of the fans going up there and standing in the cold, and boats leaving from Ireland at 3:30 in the morning to get up to Dingwall. No matter who's in charge, no matter who's pulling the jersey on, there will always be that support wherever we go. And I think that we've got the right man leading us in terms of a manager just now, and we've got the right mentality of players on the park as well just now as well. But yesterday I just thought everyone was in full flow, full singing voice, and the players were excellent on the park as well. So a big well done to Celtic.
Absolutely. In terms of the manager, Paddy, some folks might call how he's played things since the Rangers defeat. A Rodgers masterclass. Miff won't call it that, and many others won't. But what's happened there is obviously there was a fallout after the St Johnstone game where he's called out some of the singing and different things, and it caused just a very temporary rift between the manager and the fans. But since then, we've had the fun and games with all the chanting last week about the various ex-players and Martin O'Neill and stuff, and the manager then crediting the fans and having a wee laugh and a wry smile about it all. And then he reinforces that yesterday. The fans were excellent yesterday, and he's reinforced that with his comments about the commitment that some people put into following Celtic. He mentioned some guys in Ireland that he knows who are getting the bus over at the ferry, at 3 o'clock, which I presume takes them into Stranraer. And then you've got a hell of a drive from Stranraer to Inverness to get to that game. And it is real commitment from those guys particularly. And the manager's recognising that. And all of a sudden, about a week ago, there was headlines of a rift. Now we're all best pals again and everyone's loving life. And it's worked out pretty well, hasn't it?
Aye, it's very clever. And listen, whether he's done this deliberately or not, you think about it, a week ago, we're all still scratching our heads at the performance at Ibrox and, questioning certain players' mentality getting into the game, questioning the performance of players who have ran away with the league already, and we're only past the first week in January. And I think that's the where he's been so clever. There's no chat yesterday about the injured players being a hamper to us. There's no chat about the schedule being busy. There's no chat about budgets. It's just go in and get the football done and support the team as much as you can. And we're not talking about that performance anymore. We've moved on. And yes, Rangers results help with that. But I do think that he just took the heat off the players. And I think that was his intention. He maybe get the wording a bit wrong.
Yeah, all good with that. We covered that in a bit of detail on the weekly show there. He's also, as I say, he's managed it well and we've kind of moved on, in a good manner from the Rangers defeat. But he's also not shied away from it. Again, he was asked post-match, I just caught it before coming on, about the response since that game. And he said, listen, that was never a Celtic performance. It wasn't good enough. We all know that. We'll take the learnings from it. So he wasn't shying away saying, it was a one-off with some injuries or whatever. He just addressed it in the right manner. He's taken it on the chin. And there's no doubt. I'm really looking forward to the next time against Rangers, which I think is in March at Celtic Park. There is no doubt Brendan Rodgers will find the solution. You'd bet your house on that. In terms of that response, just quickly, Paddy, as we're heading towards the end of this one today, in the 3 games since, 3 wins for Celtic, that consistency, it almost confirms that the Rangers game was a blip, because you look at Celtic's results before the Rangers game and afterwards, and it's just a column of green wins. It's just win, 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 tick, tick, tick. In the 3 games since, we beat St Mirren 3-0, Dundee United 2-0, and Ross County 4-1. More often than not, we're winning and getting clean sheets, Paddy, and it's apparently that's scuppered that yesterday. But it's 9 goals in 3 games, and that, I'm stating the very, very obvious here, but that is just title winning form. And Celtic have been there, done that, got all the t-shirts. They know how to do it.
Well, it was I've seen Celtic first. Yesterday had said we're at 88 goals already this season, and as I say, we're in January. There's still another 4 and a bit months to go in the season. That's incredible. That is incredible numbers for any team, and it's been a joy to watch. And I just think that you look at where all the goals are coming from. It's a style of football we've seen before from Rodgers, but it's definitely a lot more relentless, in my opinion, and it's a lot less forgiving. So, what an incredible season so far, and we deserve to be in the position we're in.
Brilliant season so far, Paddy, and there is the potential for it to be exceptional. There's lots ahead. So even just taking a very quick glance ahead, just to finish things off here, we've got Dundee away from home on Tuesday, and it'll be tricky. And they had a decent result against Rangers last week. Then we've got Kilmarnock at the weekend in the Scottish Cup, so 4th round of the Scottish Cup for Celtic out to defend the trophy. And then moving into the next midweek on the Wednesday, it's that massive game against Young Boys. There's different challenges across different competitions, and the manager will need to change things. You can't line up in the same way against Dundee away as Kilmarnock at home, as Young Boys at home. You can maybe have similar personnel, but you need to make tweaks to your system. And that is a challenge for the manager, and it's a challenge for Celtic. You need to find different ways to get the result in these different competitions.
You really do. But I think yesterday now he's got in his head, we spoke about that game against Dundee United where we thought maybe those players coming into the team weren't at the level that we require. I think when you look at the performance yesterday and the use of both our strikers on the park yesterday, our main strikers, the use of Yang out on the left, it then gives you more of an opportunity to rest the likes of Maeda, to rest the likes of Nicholas Kuhn, and then you're also looking at, hang on a minute, what can Johnny Kenny bring to the team now? Can he allow me the substitution for Kyogo or Ida on the hour mark, as well as them helping each other out? So it's given him an extra threat, I think, yesterday, and seeing, right, we've lost 4 wingers, go and do it. How do we go and win this game? Scored 4 goals, absolutely brilliant, and I think he'll be a happy man knowing that he's got some extra options up his sleeve now.
Yeah, it's been brilliant to see, Paddy. Last comment for the day goes to Gypsy King, who says that Engels is becoming our most influential player. And I think it's hard to argue that on recent form. And I'll just revisit a comment from, I think, the last show we done, where someone said, give him till next year, he'll be player of the year. I think he could be Celtic's main man over what remains of this season. I think he's now in a great place to just kick on and show the best of himself over the next 4 or 5 months. So exciting to see. Paddy, as I say, I'll cover it at the top, but again, a massive thanks to Lewis and the guys from the Highland Bakery. Just some brilliant guys, great company, and really enjoyed the day with them yesterday. And Paddy, your own final thoughts. As I say, another busy week. We're in this month of January, 9 games in total for Celtic in January. We'll forget the one at the very start of the month, but beyond that, so far so good, and exciting times ahead. Your final thoughts?
Yeah, just echo what you're saying just about the guys yesterday. Really, really nice of them to invite us up there, and it was lovely to meet them. Lovely to see how far and wide Celtic goes across the country. We know how popular that is across the world, but it's nice hearing the stories of these guys and their commitment to travelling from across Scotland and getting down to Celtic Park, or getting to any away ground week in, week out. Some brilliant stories from them as well. Also, a shout out to Gary from Inverness. I bumped into him going to the toilets yesterday, and he was saying he was listening to what we're doing as well. And guys, we absolutely love hearing from any of our fans. But he was saying, he says, now you have to feel what I have to feel every week. I drive down to Celtic Park all the time. He said, so I don't care how cold it is the day. He said, it's about time you lot for Glasgow come up and experience what I have to do every week. So I thought, fair play to you. But it's a special thing we've got. We know that already, and it's just great to see our fans from all over the place, and just a really nice bunch yesterday. We were made feel really welcome, and just a great day out, and a great result at the end of the day as well. Yeah,
spot on, Paddy. As you mentioned there, the fella Neil that was at the table, Neil's from Forest, living in Aberdeen now, and I was asking, does he travel down for every home game? He's like, aye, and every away game. Doesn't miss a game. I think he takes his wee grandson as well, which is a great thing to see. Barry, thanks for joining us here on your Sunday. What is it? Is it morning? Is it afternoon? It's something. Thanks for joining us here today. Thanks, as always, for everyone that continues to follow the lives and to listen to the Celtic Exchange podcast. Remember, if you want to enjoy ad-free listening and early access to the weekly show, visit the celticexchange.supercast.com. There is a link in the show notes for how you can do that and how you can support us across 2025. But in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Another massive week ahead for ahead. Calm down, Paddy. Another massive weekend ahead for Celtic. But we'll catch all that in the weekly show and beyond. Enjoy it, folks. We'll see you soon.